Okay, guys, welcome back. I am here with something a little bit different today. I haven't done a tier list in a long time, so I thought I'd do one on prequels. And there are a lot more prequels in existence than I remembered. I had to really think deep down in my brain to see which prequels I have seen or read. These are not only movies and shows, but one of them is books. Okay, so I put these in chronological order, and I have six tiers. Now, these aren't exactly how I would compare them to each other, per se, but the tiers are more how they compare to the original. You know what I mean? So, number one is better than the original. Number two is as good. It's equally to the original. Number three is stands on its own, which means it's not as good as the original, but it stands on its own as a good show or book or whatever. It's okay, meaning no, it's okay. It's okay. It wasn't horrible. I didn't waste my time watching it, but it's just not that good. And then we have horrible. I think that speaks for itself. And so low, which means it's so bad. I wish I never saw it, and I wish it was never made. Okay, so I'm going to do these in chronological order in which they were released. So first we have The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which many people don't know is actually a prequel because the first two movies in the trilogy, they take place during the Reconstruction, but The Good and Bad, the Ugly takes place in the final days of the Civil War. So technically, that makes it a prequel, even though each of the three movies kind of stand on their own. But a little Easter egg, I guess you could say about the movie is, as Clint Eastwood goes on his quest, he like picks up different items that in the final scene of the movie, he has all of the costume he does from the first two movies, which is kind of cool. But yeah, this movie is fantastic. Probably the best Western I've ever seen, right up there with Once Upon a Time in the West. There's just something so eerie and like this uncomfortable feeling you get while watching this movie, which I think Leone's movies do to put them ahead of the American counterparts, I guess. Spaghetti westerns have this really artsy film quality to it, kind of, I don't know, art house westerns, which I think are very unique. And The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, they're able to make this really intense sequences where nothing much has happened, but you're on the edge of your seat. And of course, the beautiful music by Ennio Morricone, as well as the great performances by Clint Eastwood and the guy who played the ugly. I forgot his name, but he was really good. So I'm gonna put this in better than the original. So, our next movie, or next prequel, I guess, would be The Godfather Part 2, which technically counts as a prequel and a sequel, but so the sequel parts of it obviously is the parts where with Michael Corleone, but the prequel parts are the parts with a young Vito played really well by Robert De Niro in one of the roles that made him famous. So I am in the minority apparently because I actually think this is better than the original. We're off to a good start here with the prequels. It it just seems, the De Niro stuff is really good. It shows how this young orphan immigrant boy grows up, becomes a crime boss. It's a great story. But then also in the modern day scenes, it shows Michael's downfall, which is just as engaging. In fact, more engaging because Michael already proved in movie one he's a piece of shit. So seeing him go down in movie two, not exactly go down in the crime world, but go down as a person and his relationships with his family completely crumble is very depressing, but also kind of satisfying in a weird way. Okay, moving on to Temple of Doom. So, it is also technically a prequel, because it takes place 1 year before Raiders of the Lost Ark. Something I always figured about. But yeah, because technically it takes place before the Nazis' occupation of whatever. I don't know some history, but correct me on that one. But yeah, technically it's a prequel. Um, and I think it stands on its own. Like, it's a good movie. I think it's a great movie, but it's nowhere near the quality as Raiders of the Lost Ark. So I try not to compare it to it too much. I think, the basic plot and the whole elements are very well done. The only parts I don't like is the supporting cast, which the annoying blonde lady and Short Round are not that good of characters. But Short Round got his redemption and everything everywhere all at once, so who am I to say? But yeah, out of the original three movies of Indiana Jones, this is probably the weakest. But like, um, that's saying a lot because one and three are so good. So, Temple of Doom, it's a good movie. It stands on its own. I'd watch it again, but it's not exactly a classic. Okay, so moving on to Fire Walk with Me, I have another really unpopular opinion on this. Well, I think it's better than the original because your journey of following Laura Palmer is just so raw and emotional, and David Lynch gets to do so much in this movie that he doesn't get the chance to do in Twin Peaks because of network interference or, censorship and stuff. So this is full on David Lynch, and he's at his rawest heel. He doesn't hold back, he doesn't pull his punches. You really get the feel for this character and all the stuff she's going through in a very, like, very violent display of domestic abuse and something I feel like isn't done in almost anything else. It's tragic, it's depressing, but it's beautiful. Great movie. Okay, moving on to Duncan Egg, which is a series of it's a series of novellas by George R. R. Martin, and it's a sequel to A Song of Ice and Fire. So this series I feel like is okay. It's just not exactly. It's not A Song of Ice and Fire. You don't get the complexity. You don't get the complex characters. You don't get all like the mysteries and the plots. They're just kind of basic fairy tales, which are okay, but it's just not as it's not engaging. And I feel like if they were like its own thing and not exactly connected to Westeros, I would not read them because they're kind of boring. Honestly, they're good, but like they're boring. It's okay. It's just okay. And I am thirsty today. Okay, moving on to the Star Wars prequel trilogy. So I guess it's another unpopular opinion because around 2017, after everybody realized how shit the Star Wars sequel trilogy is, everybody was like, guys, the prequels are secretly genius movies. And I'm here to say that's complete bullshit. I think they're horrible movies, except for Revenge of the Sith, which 3 is amazing. Well, it's not amazing. It's good. It's a good movie. It's just not, it's not horrible. So if they just did Revenge of the Sith, I'd put it higher. I'd put it on stands on its own. But Phantom Menace is such a bad movie until the last 10 minutes, and Attack of the Clones is even worse than Phantom Menace because you don't even get a cool scene except for like the desert scene. So yeah, these are horrible movies. What could I say that hasn't already been said? But yeah, I don't get the hype. Maybe it's nostalgia, but that's not true because I grew up with these movies. I watched these since I was a little boy. I was a wee lad. But yeah, nostalgia doesn't work on me apparently, unless it's I don't know, Marvel. Okay, moving on to the Hobbit films. So, these movies I tend to give a pass because yes, they're very bloated and it should have been one movie, but the studio wanted to make it a trilogy to capitalize it. So I don't exactly blame Peter Jackson. However, if you take away the bloated parts of it and just watch the 4 hour cut on the internet, the fan edit, I think it's way better. And even with the extra stuff, it's still good movies. It's obviously it's not on the same level as Lord of the Rings. Nothing could ever be. but they tried to make something good, and for the most part, I liked it. There's some subplots I would have kept out, but some new stuff that were added in, I actually liked. I liked the stuff with Radagast. I thought Tario was cool. I just didn't like the love triangles he was in. But yeah, they were good movies. But like I said, I prefer the 4 hour cut. Okay, moving on to Oz the Great and Powerful. This movie is utter dog shit. It is horrible. The only reason I'm not putting it in so low is because there's even worse prequels than this. So, yeah, this is just the CGI nightmare. I don't know what type of drugs Sam Raimi was smoking, but apparently not enough to make a good movie. Um, it's just so the plot is flimsy. The the world looks really like ugly. I've never seen Oz look really like just bunch of CGI goop. The characters' motivations make no sense. It's James Franco, I think, was really miscast for this. Everything about it is horrible. Like, yeah, I liked it when I was 8, but I don't like it now, I guess. Okay, what's next? Gotham. So Gotham, I don't exactly know where to put this because even though it's a prequel to Batman, it's like its own thing. It's not like which Batman. They never exactly specify. Um, but I'm gonna say as good because like which Batman, if it's a prequel because it's its own universe, so you can't exactly compare it. It's like it's not as good as the Kristen Bale movies, but it's better than the Tim Burton movies. I put it in between those. But yeah, this show, I loved this show. I watched it like all 5 seasons. It was one of the few shows I watched for like as it aired for the entire run, which I'm kind of happy about. But it's just really fun. I love that the show didn't take itself too seriously, and they were like not afraid to do ridiculous stuff. Because if you think about the whole concept of Batman is ridiculous, so they completely like went off the rails. And it's like there'll just be some unspeakable act of violence every episode. And instead of being horrifying, it's hilarious because it's just so cartoony. The violence is funny. But yeah, really entertaining characters. Some plot lines I didn't like. I think it would have worked better if the seasons were like 15 episodes instead of 22. But for the most part, it was a fun ride, and I enjoyed Gotham. It was really funny. Okay, move on to more dog shit. We have Minions. So I wish I never saw this movie. It's a complete cash cow. Um, Despicable Me 1 was good. I didn't like the 2, and because of that, I never saw 3. I don't know why I saw Minions. It just like it was on. My sister was watching it, and yeah, this was a horrible movie. Just a complete like when you think Soul is Hollywood, you think Minions. It's been a long time since I've seen it. Maybe it's secretly genius, but lo and behold, there's a lot of bad '60s references and those annoying fucking voices. Like I think the Minions work best in small doses. They're not exactly like the highlight of Despicable Me. And they're like huge, forced popularity. It just annoys me. Um, it was the beginning of the end for Sony as a corporation. We started at Minions and now it's Morbin time, so who knows what they have to offer next. Okay, moving on to great stuff again. We have Better Call Saul. So, another unpopular opinion here. I think it's better than the original because it I don't know. Breaking Bad was amazing. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I like Better Call Saul more because it's a lot more slower paced, which I kind of like. And Jimmy Miguel slash Saul Goodman is a more likable protagonist than Walter White is, because Walter White's kind of a city person, but with Saul, you're always hoping that he comes out on top. You root for Saul. I never rooted for Walt. And something else which makes this so really unique, because even though it's a prequel, you don't know what's going to happen. You have no idea what's going to happen to these characters. Besides obvious ones like, where Saul ends up, where Mike and Gus end up. but you don't know about anything else, and you don't know how they get there. That's the whole mystery: is how they get there, and what happens to these new characters. And even still, you don't know how Saul Goodman's story ends because they keep teasing post Breaking Bad stuff. So even though it's called Better Call Saul, and you know it's a prequel, we still don't know how it happens. So there's another mystery. But yeah, I think it's TV's greatest show at the moment. I love it. Um, you can see my videos. You know, I post a lot of videos about Saul. It's just a great show. Okay, moving on to Rogue One, which I think is okay. You know, it's a good movie. I just feel like it was either not long enough or too long because there's so many plot points in this movie that it would have worked better as a miniseries. However, there's a lot of like jumping around, so they could have just cut a couple plot points, focused more on the characters, and then made it a solo, more compact, better movie. Because does that forced vertical stuff need to be there for so long? You know, it just like the first, hour and a half of the movie is like, okay, it's a good movie, it's okay. But then the last half hour is what everybody remembers from it. But yeah, I think the movie could have been either cut down or turned into a miniseries, and it would have been better for either way. Okay, now this is what I named the teal Solo for, and that's of course Solo. This is a horrible movie. This is what made me realize that Disney just does not give a fuck about Star Wars. It's just nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. There's a bunch of stupid ass scenes in there, like, "What's your name? What's your last name? I don't have a last name." "Well, you're all alone. I guess we're gonna call you Solo." And then that weird mall cameo that never amounted to anything. The characters are not memorable. Amelia Clark gets on the short end of the stick again because he's always putting these bad movies. Um, I don't remember a single fucking thing that happened in this movie, and I've seen it twice. And I don't remember anything. So yeah, it just all seemed pointless. Also, Han goes through the same arc he does in the original movie, so he does the same arc twice. Like he starts off as kind of a nonchalant, I don't care about anything, apathetic smuggler. Then he learns through the course of the movie to be a caring and compassionate person who helps others. And then he does the exact same thing again in A New Hope. So it's like, what was the point of any of this if he's just gonna forget somehow? I don't understand. Bad, 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 bad. Boo. You suck, Solo. Worst movie ever. Actually, no, that's probably Rise of Skywalker. Um, so yeah, these are all the prequels I could think of, which is surprisingly a lot. I didn't know there were that many prequels that I've seen. So yeah, what do you guys think of my list? Do you think I'm too hard on the prequel trilogy of Star Wars? Tell me why I'm wrong, because I like to like things. I don't like hating things. But yeah, you guys gonna kill me in the comments for saying I like Firewalk with Me and Better Call Saul better than the original? Because I know those are really unpopular. But yeah, let me know down below. Also, what is your favorite prequel? Because you know, I like talking to people about the favorite prequels. So yeah, maybe let's do a list sometime in the future on my favorite sequels. Maybe mix it up. I don't know. So yeah, thanks everybody for watching, and I will see you some other time. Okay, peace.